And what do you think as far as, encouraging people to do their own timeline? I mean, was this beneficial when you did it?
Yes. Yes.
It
Yeah,
was.
I thought so too.
It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in. I mean, I'm kind
Okay.
of so eager to hear what you guys
Yeah.
came up with. Was it eye-opening? Was it surprising?
I had a few, yeah, eye-opening, like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, mine was only 3 years, not 4 years. I didn't realize it.
Oh, okay.
Feels like it's been
Yeah.
a decade. It just
Yeah.
feels so long.
Yeah. Mine's been 5. This one's been 5.
Yeah, I took your advice and started it from the second one. Because otherwise it would have been, the past 10 years. And the second one will be 3 years in next March. Yeah. And the first one was like a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought it was longer. I thought we were going on 4 years.
I did too.
That's
I thought for sure mine was 4 years.
Yeah.
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 Huh, feels longer. And that makes sense.
Yeah. My eye opening was, I was like, oh my God, I look and sound like a lunatic.
Me too. Me too. I filled in a lot of dead space with lunacy. I did.
But at the same time, it was, well, you'll see when I read it to you, but in my case, there were so many financial things that I needed info on, and just, still to this day. So but it was like bombarding. So when, like 1 minute, I love you. And the next minute, where's the Venmo? It was,
And I think the biggest eye-opening moment for me on YouTube was reading some of the comments, and it was that one gentleman, M. King. We talked about his comments a few times. One of his comments was about consistency and how he said, if you said this one thing to us when we were kids, like, I mean, his situation sounded pretty extreme, but he said, like his mom would say, like, same things like, I hate you, and, I wish you were dead. I mean, and then to try to come back from that and say, well, I love you. Why don't you want to talk to me anymore? I mean, my heart goes out in those situations because, that was a parent at the end of their wits end, right? Just reacting on something that had nothing to do with their kid, but yet so much damage is done with that child. And, when I was getting into his comments and going back and forth, I mean, I really took to heart so many things that he said, and that really stuck with me was consistency. And so that's when I was going back through mine, I was surprised that I had the inconsistency that I did, because I thought I was more consistent. And so that stuck with me. It's like, oh, that's exactly what he was talking about. And of course, mine wasn't that extreme, but reading it back is like, when something's in your face like that, it's a little bit harder. Oh, well,
yeah.
who wants to go? Dr. Ruth, Cheryl, do you guys want to
Yeah,
go?
I'll
Who wants to
go.
go first? Okay.
How did we even first of all, how did we start this timeline thing? How did that
Well,
start?
you and I were talking about something, and I think we just kind of said, well, that would be interesting to see if we have patterns in common.
Yeah, I'm always looking for patterns.
Yeah, I am too. Organic patterns of energy exist in
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah. And timelines is something I do in my job. So
yeah, I think timelines are so valuable.
Yeah, we just kind of zoned in on that one morning.
And I think part of it too is writing something back to yourself and putting it in a logical, chronological order, removing the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I think then that way you can kind of see it objectively without being in it.
Yeah.
And it's very different.
It is. And when I do timelines with people in my job, they want to tell the story. and I'm trying to just get a timeline. And when they're telling their story to me, I'm trying to pull out the pieces I want, the dates and I just want the highlights. So I was really deliberate when I went back through mine. I thought it was going to take me a long time to go back through. All my communication has been emails since I got blocked on everything. So it was easy to go to one place. And I thought it would take me a long time, but it just took a few minutes to go back.
Mine too, yeah.
And I wrote, and I think I showed you guys this. I wrote it down on a card. You can't see it, but it's all on the front and back. It's just dates of when the first, when I call, I put it in quotation marks, estrangement started when I left her house, and then there was no contact. I put that date, and then other dates when I emailed to her, and I would just put who did what, like I emailed to her or she responded to me. It's just a real simple. So I could see I emailed, she made a response, and then I emailed. She got some. There was a lot of me to her, me to her, me to her, me to her. Most of it. So there's a.
Can I ask you? So you were not blocked on email?
Now I don't know how she would block on email.
You can.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's interesting. No, I'm not blocked on email.
Okay.
So that's the only way I even try anymore. So now I don't always get a response, and there's, it'll go with me emailing to her, looks like 4 times, and then I get a response. That's on average. More frequent responses from her recently. Now, see, mine's been 5 years. So put the month, and I just put the highlight. She had a child that was born too.
So you had a lot of correspondence, like within a month period, like back and forth. You had a lot going on.
Not initially. No, actually, when it first started, I waited 4 months.
Wow.
And then because it was through the holidays, and she also had a baby. So I thought something in that maybe is gonna, she was also in touch with my husband. So I thought it was easy to give it time. Easier, I guess, because I thought there was still communication in the family. But
And which kid was this? Was this her second
fourth
kid?
Her fourth.
Her fourth.
Yeah.
Okay, so she just had her fourth. Okay.
Yeah. So then when nothing was happening, I felt like the 4-month estrangement was so long. And I thought that, if the kids are going to forget who I am, and I wanted to be that grandma. That was my focus. So I didn't put dates in here about when I talked to the minister or reached out to my attorney. I didn't do that. It was just mostly just about me and her. So then I put when I did file for visitation. And then just me leaving messages. I was going to be in the area, offered to meet, just little reminders about things that came to mind, like a dance memory. She danced a lot, dance classes, and
but that was recent, not in the beginning.
Actually, there was one I ran across in 2022 that I had sent a dance memory then, and I did another one recently. Then there was in 2022. See, this all started in 2019. In 2022, is when I offered to have reconcile with the therapist that was specializing in this. And then I got a big response then about that was, to me, it was a lot in there, and it wasn't going to happen. So then in 2024, this year, just a few months ago, another dance memory, and then the Halloween memory I did this year. So that's just a month ago. And then she responded, and it was still the same kind of thing, like not wanting to be in contact. And I reached out to Lisa. I have Lisa on here. You made my timeline, Lisa. That, you know, I want to respond. I wanted to respond to her. It's been heavy on my heart to have her know somehow that, because she said move on, to somehow let her know that I'm been through a healing process, and my faith has grown, and that I wanted to get that message across. So anyway, I worked on something and sent a brief email and apologized. And I've had also apologized in other emails. And she responded again, which surprised me, because there was now back and forth. And that was this month. And she referred back, thank you, Lisa, because she referred back to me filing for visitation. And Lisa was able to see in the email that my daughter sent me that that's what she was trying to talk to me about. So
How long ago was that filing?
it was just the filing for visitation.
Yeah.
In the January, February of 2020, like right through COVID.
The very beginning.
Yeah. And COVID slowed all that down. That's just a whole nother story. But so anyway, Lisa helped me see what my daughter was trying to communicate. So I sent, when she responded to me about the things she wanted to say, then Lisa, you hit my timeline again. And my last communication with her was early this month. And I just said, I hear you, I'm sorry. So I just wanted her to know I heard her. Because like Lisa said, the consistency is really important, that now she needs to see that I'm not going to be defensive. I'm not going to bring up anything. I'm different. And I'm being consistent. It's sincere, so that, you know, maybe she can think about someday sitting down with me and telling me more if she wants to. So yeah, mine's in 5 years. When this first started, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, sorry, about 20 points on my timeline. But yeah, it's a lot. What I noticed was the big thing that I thought the 4 months was going to be a long time, but not seeing the kids. It's been 5 years. That's a long time not seeing the kids.
Yeah.
And so I looked back about what could I have done differently? Absolutely. What would I have not done? And then just noticing a pattern of me reaching out, a few times before there's a response from her. There's not a back and forth thing really until recently. But even then, like I'm just going to leave it as it is. I have no plans to add to my timeline. I'm not going to reach out again unless something weighs heavily on my heart. Then I'll put Lisa on my timeline and consult with her. What do I do? No.
And I think that's important. I think time is important, and then that gives us time for consistency again.
Yeah,
because
and
I
I'm
think,
not patient.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and
hard.
she probably isn't either. But then that way, if there's a touch in again in a few weeks, a few months, few years, we don't know.
Yeah,
there's the opportunity for that consistency again.
Mm-hmm.
Right now she doesn't trust it. There's no way she trusts
Right.
it. Yeah. You know what I think is going to be important, and after Cheryl, maybe we'll come back to this. I think what's going to be so important for us to own and acknowledge, and for everybody listening who's probably going to be parents, that recognizing that all that stuff we did in the beginning was really about control. And just, we couldn't let go, to let them become who they need to become. I mean, because we're just so encased in this parental role, and that's what we did for their whole lives. And so just recognizing that it's time to let go, was the hardest part. It was just, that's what it was,
Mm-hmm.
was
And
letting go.
At one point when I was talking to you, Lisa, there was something came up about loss for me, and you encouraged me to think about loss and all the losses in my life. And that really helped me because I've thought about a lot of loss, and it's just been things from when I was a kid and we moved. And then when I was a teenager, we moved. So there were big points in my life that I lost all those friends and whatever else I had. And then I've had miscarriages. So all these losses that involve people, and then this estrangement, I mean, that's the most significant loss. And there's just that panic sets in about like, and you want to control it and you can't. Yeah. Yeah. That was very helpful for me to look at losses. So I've got a lot more work to do. Yeah. But I really feel like I'm in a much better place.
But think about an even loss and taken away from us.
Mm-hmm.
Think about like how many things in our lifetime were taken away from us. Missed opportunities, missed investment deals. I mean, just it's everywhere that we feel we lost something on. I mean, that is such a big wound. And now this opened all of that up. And so we just think, okay, if the kid just comes back, then we don't have to feel any of this. But that's what we're feeling. It's so beyond the estrangement.
Yeah. I was able to make a connection and know where that came from and know why I reacted like I did. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just in a much different place.
Yeah. Cheryl, what do you got?
Show me what you got. So I went back to the second period of estrangement, which was March 2022. And before being blocked completely, there's like no, Facebook, Instagram, email, phone. There were 2 phone calls before. So in that month, the same month, and about 10 texts. So March 2nd, from her to me, hope Florida's going well. Then me, Aunt Anita's here. You want to FaceTime? Then she, that would be nice. Are you doing anything fun? And me, shelling, beaching, puzzle, call you in 5. So that was the first phone call before the split. We did a FaceTime, very nice. And there was something off in one sentence that I heard and my sister heard, and it was like a knife. And it was something I can't remember, but it was something about abuse, like a feeling of abuse surfacing or something that, I thought we had worked through all of this. Leading up to this, for a couple of months, it was back and forth of I love yous and, just calling and talking about the day. And we were on a very good path because we had done therapy. We had just been moving forward with everything. So that should have been an inkling to me, but it wasn't. I just remember, she probably didn't mean it. Then the next day after that phone call, she texted and said, I got the mail, thank you, because she still has a lot of her mail sent here. Even to this day. So I still have to send mail. She won't have it forwarded. And okay. So that just gives you a little background. And I was like, okay, great. Then a few days later, she texted to borrow money that she would pay me back the following week. I was like, of course. And then she wrote, but I want to get to the point where it's not a part of our relationship. And
what does that mean?
Where she's not always asking me for money or because up until that point, she had just gotten a new job. I was paying for everything. Apartment, just everything. Because she was at a very rough patch. So I said, well, I hope I'm always here for you. And she wrote, I appreciate it. Thank you. And then she got the money and she thanked me and we both said, I love you. Okay. Then the day, I think it was so, I don't really want to say, but one of the issues is I feel there's a alcohol problem. She feels there isn't. And my ex was an alcoholic. So there were random texts before the actual last phone call that were very off. And to me, kind of, that's a signal of something. And so she was sending me pictures of her Great Dane, and saying that he was judging her. And I was like, I laughed and I said, what is he judging? Thinking it was a joke. And she said, well, it's a look of betrayal. And there was his face, this Great Dane face. And I said, oh, he takes up the whole couch. And she's like, yeah, that's why I'm on the bed. And she said, he feels betrayed that I'm not letting him up on here, but there was no room. I said, okay, thank you for sharing. That's so cute. Then the next day is when I got the phone call, and it was very long. I should have ended it, but it was kind of rambling, slurring, and
you called her, or she called you?
She called me.
Okay.
And my sister kept telling me, hang up, because it was incoherent, a lot of it. But I felt she had a lot to say, and I just was going to listen. And it was all, and it started out, I think she wanted to come and stay. I was in Florida at the house in Connecticut for to visit a friend.
Wait, try not to go too far into the details.
Yeah.
Try to say more on the timeline, but we'll get into the details as we need to.
So it was a very long phone call that was full of insults and just a lot of pain on her end. And at the end saying, I will estrange again. And this time it will be forever, unless you will go back to therapy with a new therapist, an intern of the old one, very young, hadn't even finished school yet, and apologize profusely for everything that had happened before, even though I already had. And I, at that point, said, no, I'm not willing to do that again. I thought we had worked through everything. So after, going over everything, I have regrets about that I should have said yes and just gone through the process again. I don't know.
Do you believe if you would have done that it would have made a difference?
I don't know. At the time, I thought absolutely not. Now I don't know, because since then, almost 3 years, there's been way more memories that have come to light that we never discussed in the first time. So I don't know if those could have been worked out like we did with the first round. But so at that point, because I'm still in the timeline, that was the moment. So March 22, blocked everything. And then the rest, I have 3 pages, 2.5 pages almost, of texts from me and emails. Obviously no response because blocked on everything. But I'm looking at these and I'm like, are you kidding me? And the first 4 months of this one, where it was my lowest, point, where it was, those horrible feelings again, and, just total despair. So starting March 18th, just text. I think, every day was now, things about the car, things about co-signed loans, just all these things that we had been in communication. And now it was, and now what do I do? So, and then starting in August, I said, I'm ready to do sessions with the new therapist.
August of this year?
No, of that year.
And
22.
what year?
22.
Okay.
So from March to August, it was just constant text from
Okay.
me, like actually every 5 days, 10 days,
Okay.
about all the financial things, like,
Okay.
yeah. And then in August, I see that I wrote, in the same day, August 23rd, I'm ready to do sessions with the new therapist. And then on the same day, I sent another text, please pay the car tolls and get an easy pass. So,
So do you remember like why you wanted to do the therapist at that point? Do you remember, was it just so she would talk to you? I mean, do you remember what that was about?
it was, I couldn't believe that we were going down this road again, that it was going to be, like the first time, which was a couple of years. I just could not believe it. And I was despairing. So I guess it was grasping at straws, but she had asked and she had initiated it. So, I just wanted to let her know that I was ready, but I guess so. Then again, in September, I said, I'd like to do therapy. At that point, her sister was pregnant and was coming to visit. And I was like, then we could all have a visit together, thinking, oh, we'll do therapy and, it'll be okay. Then that was September. Then November, I had a big surgery. And that's when she sent flowers anonymously. And I wrote a thank you. I sent thank you. And then December, it was just.
And those flowers were definitely from her?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because at that point, I still had hopes that something could be repaired but when I sent that thank you, it did more damage.
So what do you think was her motivation for sending those flowers?
I think, I don't know. I think my sister feels maybe she guilted her into it because she was really harsh on her, saying, this is your mother. How could you not care? But I know my daughter, she's not going to do something just because someone, is trying to guilt her into it. There had to be some reason, but yeah, the anonymous, was interesting to me. And so then, okay, so that was that. And then December, it was more bills, the talking about the car. If I get no answer, I have to sell it or repossess it. And she actually sent a payment. That was the last payment ever. That was 22. So I know when I send these kinds of texts, it's, I didn't send them in a threatening manner. It was more of a declaration, like a statement. But as, I look through this, I think it probably could come across as, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this. And, I've been trying not to get to that point for all these years. I don't want anything to be a retribution.
And Cheryl, it's messy. I mean,
it's very messy. Very.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the money situation, it wasn't good for either one of you, but yet, I mean, it was just an entanglement and enmeshment that you had to unravel somehow. And that's just not an easy one.
But it's still not unraveled. So even though I have been trying desperately this year. So then in December of that year, I sent an article by text and email of one of my best friends, car accident, fatal car accident, because she knew her too. And then 5 days later, I found out through a friend that her Great Dane died in the middle of a street. And I was heartbroken. Oh my God, just thinking, how did she deal with that? And then I called my other daughter, who didn't tell me. And, and she kind of gave me details. And she was on the phone with her, talking her through it. So that made me so grateful and happy to hear. But the next day after I sent that, I sent another text about, okay, car taxes. So I didn't like how I was doing that. Obviously, that's not consistency. Then just more, things I sent of bills that I was paying. And then again in January, if you don't pay this, I have to sell or repossess, which I haven't done yet. And then just text after text. Then February 11th, it was her birthday. Happy birthday, I love you. Then March, just I love you dearly. Then not until October, I didn't do anything. No email, no text until October. So from April to October, I love you text. Then November, another I love you. Then December, Merry Christmas. Then January of this year, maybe, 2 sentences, a little longer. I'm sorry for any hurt that I've caused. Then in February, don't buy episodes on Prime or something that she was on all my apps. And that is the first time I took action and canceled her on all my apps, which I didn't want to do. I had to. I was very proud of myself at that point. It's like the first thing I did. Then February 11th was very difficult. It was her 30th birthday. And I sent a happy birthday with this little song. Do you know the book, I Like You Forever?
I'll love you forever.
I like you for always. I'll love you forever. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. So that was always a catchphrase between us. And I would always send that. And I hadn't, up until the second estrangement, I was sending texts with that all the time. And I would write half of it and she would write the last part, my baby you'll be. And so I don't know why I felt that it was okay to send that, but I did on her 30th birthday.
And no response.
No, there's been no response with anything since March 22. But hopefully, I don't know, one day when she unblocks it and she sees that, but I'm afraid it will be mixed with all the other crazy stuff, but hopefully, she'll still feel that. October until now, it's just been, I've sent 2 emails and 2 texts, saying that all the deadlines have passed for the car. And, because I had sent a big packet, that this now is the year where it will have to be done. My older daughter had been the go-between for the last time and said, yes, she said she'll sign it. She'll do everything, put it in her name. It's a gift. Great. So I sent everything, the original copies, and she didn't. So now I have to get them all back and it will be too late and all the deadlines have gone. So, that's the end of the communication on my part. So that's my timeline.
Yeah, I get it. I hear the mistakes and the remorse but that you had to, isn't that so hard though, is that I hear, and I saw this in mine too, the part that's the mom that just wants to get the business taken care of, get the stuff done. Let's have a conversation. Let's get this behind us. Let's put these things in motion so that we can just move on, because that's what we did as a parent. So we still kind of stayed in that role, I think, or that mode for a while.
Yeah.
Hoping, I don't know, hoping that they would come around, hoping they would come to their senses. I mean, is that what we were hoping was going to happen, or hoping that they would just come back, and so that we didn't really have to acknowledge what we were experiencing and what we were going through? I mean, what was that we wanted to gain from that? And we have to call it control.
I have to tell you, my hope was that this new therapist would help, because I really felt that the first one had helped, even though in the beginning it was very difficult. But she was kept saying, let's build a relationship. Each of you should be held accountable for building this relationship going forward. Let's not bring up the past. Let's try to move forward, which we were doing. I was hoping that this new one would get her to a point where she wasn't so angry and just totally devastated and hurt and feeling pain. That I don't know. But it's apparent to me that it's not moving forward on a healing process. It's still staying stuck, keeping her stuck.
We're all trying to navigate through something we've never been through before. We are as parents, and they are as adult children too. So we don't know if what we're doing is right or wrong or helpful or hurtful.
Right.
We just do what we can in the moment with the information we have, and
it might be in her best interest. It might be in her best interest not to have me in her life. And if that's what it is, then that's what it will be.
I think there's truth to that. I think there's truth to that for all of our kids. That I think there is a time that again, when they're breaking out of that mold of being in a child-parent relationship, when they're breaking free from that, they have to redefine themselves. So do we. I think that's time. I think there's got to be a lot of time in that. I really do. I mean, it's not like when they were like learning to walk or learning to talk, we didn't get upset because they didn't do it fast enough. We never said, come on, why aren't you walking? You're a year old and there's other 1-year-olds walking. Come on, why aren't you doing it? Why can't you recite your ABCs by the time you're 3? This kid can do it. We never did that. So right now, there can't be a timeline on this process, because we're all going to do this so differently. And we don't know what the other people are going through at all in our lives. We just don't know. We talk about this so much in the community. We don't know. We're filling in with our stuff. We're filling in the blank spaces with our stuff because we don't know.
What's your timeline?
Well, unless you hear from other members of your family,
but still,
who confide and and have told me.
But they're getting a version of a story from her based on whatever she's sharing in that moment. But is it really what she's experiencing, or is she protecting herself in some way by sharing certain details with them? I mean, that's why I'm saying we don't really know. I don't think she even knows. She doesn't know what to do, what to say. So I'm just going to say this, and this is what I think protects me from whatever I think my wounds are. I don't think we ever really know why we respond the way we do in our marriages, in our friendships, in our work relationships. A lot of times we have like really weird responses to things. You're like, what was that? Where did that come from?
Yeah. Sometimes they're reactive, sometimes they're thoughtful. It's just life, navigating through life. It's hard.
Sometimes they're mindless. Yeah. I mean, it's messy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So mine, again, I was surprised to learn that my estrangement was only 3 years and not 4 years, because now we're talking again and that's really great. But gosh, I would have thought it was a decade. It just seems so long without her. But it began with a weird blow up, July 9th of 2021. And that was the first year that she had to go back to school after doing school at home for 2 years, college at home, law school. So it was a very stressful time for her. But now we're learning that a lot of people really had severe anxiety going back into the workforce, or just going back into the world.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, like, a lot of people felt more comfortable wearing masks now. They didn't even want to show their face. They didn't want to be out in the world. A mask became very comfortable for them to wear. So it was a weird time. It impacted all of us in ways that we don't know. She just said she requested space from that very first email after we had a blow up and talk. And she just said, I need space. I don't know how much time. In hindsight, knowing what I know now, after talking to so many parents in that moment, not knowing what estrangement was, but if I did at that moment, I wish I would have said, I'm sorry. I don't know what just happened between us. Please take as much time as you need. In hindsight, with everything I know now, that was the absolute right thing to say. Of course, that's not what I did. So a year later was the first time I reached out. I gave her that year. Reached out with a guilted email, kind of really had a pitiful tone to it, saying, it's been a year. Come on now, let's talk. And she said, this is not changing. This is how it's going to be. And, I don't see us talking in the foreseeable future. And it's like, wow. So then 5 months later, her sister was in a near fatal car accident. So they lived in the same place, about 30 minutes apart. They both lived in Oregon. So she was the one that called me. So I was shocked that she was on my phone, my caller ID. And then she just said, Lauren's been in a car accident. Those were the first words. So then it was a very different place, right? I was still I remember being so relieved that she was talking to me. And I thought, okay, good. It's over. It's the end. And now we're going to start talking regularly. But for like the next few hours, she was the one that had to give me updates, and she was texting me just updates. But they were, they were friendly. They had her tone all over them, very friendly. And then kind of nothing when we knew her sister was going to be okay. There was nothing, but I reached out a few days later through email, thanked her for rallying and taking care of her sister and letting me know what was going on. I appreciated her being there for her sister. And I apologized again and just said, I hope someday you're going to be able to forgive me, but I'll understand if you can't. Somewhere in that timeline, and these are just emails I have. I don't have my text emails anymore because my phone changed and I lost a lot of information. But I remember somewhere, like, it was after the time that she said, I don't see this changing. And this is my Academy Award performance that I was telling you guys about earlier, is I was just in such a bad place. And I called her and I got her voicemail, and I didn't know anything about being blocked or not blocked at this point. So I don't know if I was blocked, but actually I don't think I was, because it rang a few times and then it was like she sent me to voicemail. And I remember, like, it was out of a old John Travolta movie. You remember, Stella, why won't you talk to me? Stella.
Marlon Brando.
It was bad. To her, like, I hope I was blocked. I hope she didn't listen to it. I mean, it was bad. Snot running down my nose. I'm sure it was bad. Mm-hmm. So if she did listen to it, hopefully someday we're going to laugh about it because it was so bad. But I was like, why was I that pitiful? Okay, so now after the accident, so that was November. In December, I remember texting on a three-way text both of my daughters and then my estranged daughter's husband, because that's just what I would have done. So I texted all three of them a Merry Christmas. And then I remember my oldest daughter texted me back, but not on the three-way with them. And I asked her, I said, well, why didn't you just respond on that text? And she just said, well, because you're blocked from them. And so I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. So, but she did tell me that she mentioned to them, it's got to be okay that mom wants to say Merry Christmas. It's got to be okay, but I don't think there was a response on that. 1 year and 4 months later. So we're having roundtable conversations at this point. And I'm learning a lot. We're learning a lot. We're listening to Aleia and Jillian a lot. And, I learned from, and I wasn't responding, a year and 4 months. I didn't do anything. But I remember Aleia saying, even if you send texts or emails, when you unblock somebody from your text messages, you will get all of them. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's good to know. Then I want her to know that I am thinking of her. So, I mean, I had an advantage over you, Cheryl, of knowing to only say the good, positive things at that point, because at some point they would be read. That was a year and 4 months. I sent it, I love and miss you text, thinking about you all the time. And then 3 months additional passed after that. And then that's when Lauren came to get all of my stuff, because I was moving out of the country. So she was going to take a bunch of stuff. And there was an exchange. Okay. And so we're talking about consistency. And this is kind of the beginning of consistency. I had a bunch of beautiful pottery that my kids had made when they were little, and I wanted to bring as much of it with me as I could, but I just couldn't take all of it. So my daughter's there, and we're kind of sifting through stuff. And she was looking at just some of these beautiful pieces from her sister that were big and very heavy. I wouldn't have been able to take them. So I said, well, why don't you go ahead and text her and see if she wants these, and I'll mail them to her. So she did. And I started getting kind of prickly. And I said, I don't know. I feel like I'm condoning bad behavior. And my daughter just gave me that look like, get over yourself. She has a way of doing that. And then so then she said, yes, she wants them. So you want to mail it to her. Here's her address. And I said, well, like a day later, I said, well, how was that exchange? How did that go? And she said, she did ask. She asked if you were okay sending this to me. And she said, I told her you were glad to do it. Now I wasn't, but she just totally saved my butt in that moment. So that was the beginning of my consistency, but it was through the assistance of my daughter. And then like 3 months after that, so I know I'm moving out of the country, and I know the only way to communicate is going to be on WhatsApp, and I'm not going to be connected to her on WhatsApp. So I'm sending a lot of texts at this point. Memories, pictures, like I'm at the beach and it's making me think of things. I'm sending a lot of thinking about you text during that point. So then, and I'm also starting to, say things like, I just want the best for you always. Whatever you do, whatever you need is the right thing. Please always take care of yourself first. I'm just kind of very short, brief notes like this. It's like 4 months is passing. Another 4 months. And now we're in May of 2024, this past year. And my husband and I were redoing our wills. And at this point, I had done serious healing at this point, and working with the community and everything. And yeah, it was a little, there were some moments in there that I really had to kind of reconcile with this, but it was thinking about what this mom role means. What does unconditional love look like? We don't know, until we actually do it. And if we're withholding it from our children, it only means there's pain in us that isn't healed. And we've got to recognize that. So I'm thinking so much about this, like, what is your mom legacy? What does it look like? Whether your kids talk to you again or not, in your mind, what does your mom legacy look like? What do you want it to be about? Because we create everything with our minds. So I asked my oldest, I said, I need both of your passports for the wills. Do you want me to ask your sister? I don't want to put you in the middle of it. And by then, she had gotten both passports and already sent it to me. And I was wishing that I would have just not done that and asked them both for it so that I could have kept that communication open. But that didn't happen. So then July, that was May. So then July of that year, 2024, this past year, is I was coming to visit. I have all this jewelry I don't wear anymore. Wanted to give it to them. Some really nice earrings that their dad gave me 30 years ago. Wanted them each to have an earring. They both were getting married, had gotten married. My youngest wedding I missed, but then my oldest was also getting married. So I said, these were always earmarked for both of you, and I want you to have them. Now I'm bringing them with me. So at this point, I'm including both of them on an email. And it was very positive. It was very exciting. I had to reread it. And Dr. Ruth, I think I reached out to you and just said, does this all sound like there's nothing attached to it? And I think you even said, rethink this one part or something.
But I didn't even read the whole thing because I got to,
I
don't know, a certain sentence and I thought, here it goes. And so I just told you from this point, here, this sentence, and then we talked it out and you rewrote it. Yeah.
And that's so valuable. I think if you're getting ready to send something that's so big, have somebody that you trust to talk, read it, and just say, what's the tone? What's the intention? I think that was very valuable that we were able to do that with each other. So at this point, I'm able to just everything I'm sending at this point, and now it became a momentum, a very positive momentum of, oh my gosh, I'm just so excited for you guys to have this. This is like so incredible, so great, so wonderful. There's still no response from her. I mean, I haven't gotten any response from her on anything yet. She hasn't responded to me since the accident. So that was like, a year and a half earlier. So there's no response still. So now it's August and her sister's going to get married in October. And I said, do you want me to bring this to you in August when I come? I can mail it to you. I need your address. I'm speaking directly to her, even though both of them are on the email. I'm speaking directly to her and saying, I need your address if you want me to send it to you, or I can give it to you at your sister's wedding. And she responds, it's very kind of you. Let me know if I can pay for shipping or anything like that. Here's my address. So then when I got there, FedExed it to her and everything. She got it. Thank you. I appreciate all the thought you put into this. I love you. Okay. And then that was that. So that was the end of August. And then we had a few little email exchanges back and forth, but it was mostly just, thank you. I got it. I love the ring. It was very sparkly, and the necklace was beautiful, just kind of that sort of thing. So then September 18th, so I'm evacuated from my home, as you guys know, because there's fire right outside the door. And so for 4 days, and I shared this with my community because I know this was like a remarkable time for what I did that I honestly believe made the biggest shift on and influenced this more than anything else. So for 4 days, I had to stay in a place of the unknown. I think for the first time, I probably was not thinking about my kids or I wasn't thinking about anything because the reality was starting to set in that we had lost our home, which we had paid cash for. And because it was a natural disaster, there would be no insurance. And my husband and I are both, very close to 60, with the realization that we would be starting over and just what that would look like. And there really wasn't an answer to any of that. So for 4 days, and we weren't together, he was visiting the US at that time. So for 4 days, I had to stay in this place of just the unknown and keep my mind as open, as empty as possible. And I just stayed in an immense state of gratitude the whole time. If I started slipping into fear, I was just like, no, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? And that's where I spent 4 days. My oldest daughter called me during that time because I wasn't reaching out to anybody. I didn't want anybody to know because I didn't want to have this conversation because it was scary. We just did not know. And we were like sitting in the middle of a, very small town with fire all around us. I mean, it was like, there was no place for us to go. We were looking at a map, and every time we would try to map a way out, the fires would just move there. So it was very bad. And the smoke was very bad and everything else. So, but my oldest daughter happened to call me during that time. And I just said, well, I'm kind of doing something exciting. And I played it off as, light and easy, and don't worry about anything and don't watch the news. And she was just like, oh, well, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. Well, the next day I get an email from her sister saying, Lauren told me everything. She's told me about the fires. So scary. I'm glad you're okay and you're able to find a safe place to be. I'm just thinking of you, sending you love and hugs. I love you. Um, so, I mean, that just, made everything right. And it was just like, wow, everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. Why was I worrying about so much? Because getting that email in that moment was just kind of like, we've got to let God do the heavy lifting.
Yep. It's going to be different, but it's going to be okay.
It's right. It's going to be different, but it's going to be okay. And of course, after that, when I went home and everything was okay, even though it wasn't for a lot of my neighbors. I mean, we had no smoke in our house. We had nothing was touched. Across the street, very different story. The whole mountain is burned, outside our view. So very different story. So just still extreme gratitude, right? And then she reached out to me and just said, I trust that you're okay. I haven't heard from you, and so that's when I reached out to both of them, and we've been emailing ever since. And she just said, let's start emailing again. This has been nice. I really miss hearing what's going on in your life, and this would be fun. And I don't want to be angry anymore. I don't want to rehash the past. Let's just pick up from here and email each other when we can. And that's what we've been doing. And it's been really nice. And the emailing has been perfect because there's no come to Jesus meeting. There's no hard conversation. There's no, oops, I shouldn't have said that. And it's just been no walking on eggshells. It's been very light sharing and everything else. And so, yeah. And now I look back at this timeline, and I just wish I would have, hindsight's 2020. I just wish I would have let it all go, because I created so much angst for myself. I can tell you, I don't even think I was on her mind half the time. I don't believe she was like sticking it to me or thinking bad thoughts or anything. I think she was living her life. I mean, she went into this young college kid, right? She came out of it, this young woman, married with this big career. I mean, just so much has changed for both of us during that 3 years, but just giving everybody the space to grow and become, somebody different. Yeah, we all made mistakes during that time. We made mistakes as parents. There's just no doubt we did.
When did we start the timeline? You guys both during your as you were reading yours, it reminded me of a couple things that I did that I didn't put on here that I think are valuable, at least for me in my timeline, because I did send anonymously flowers to my daughter when she turned 30. So that was kind of a big thing. So I added that. But Lisa, when did we start the round table about? Because
it would have been October. It was a year old. So okay. It was like September of 2023 was our first call.
Okay.
Wow. I can't believe it's only a year.
I know.
I can't either. I know.
We know so much about each other. Longer. It's like we've been friends forever. And yeah.
Wow.
I can't either. Yeah. And I feel like we've learned so much from that and from each other, and we've grown from that. Yeah. I think we healed a lot too.
Definitely. I know. Yeah. I know I have. Okay. So I just wanted to add a couple more things that were big.
So do you think she knows that you sent the flowers?
Well, that's how I know. I called florist, and I said, when I ordered him, it was the 30th birthday. And as a mom, I want to mark that for her. But, you know, I her birthday's in December, and so I asked that it be kind of Christmassy and something for a table, little spread for a table. And I told them a approximate price and just deliver them anonymously. And I asked that it stay that way. And she said, if they call to check to see who sent them, they can't keep that from them. So
Right.
I think she probably called to find out who sent them. She would do that. Yeah. But at least she knew I was thinking about her on her birthday. But you know, that was about me wanting her to know I thought about her on her birthday, and it was a special day, and me wanting to mark it. She may have not appreciated that. I don't know. But you know, I did what I did.
And in those moments, you can only do you.
Yeah.
You know,
It
we
wasn't
can't be like,
hateful. It wasn't a
yeah,
hateful thing I did. It was
yeah.
because like what Aleia said, it was like, shh. I think I kind of picked up a little bit on the speed at which I was sending the memories and things like that, or that I just did it because Aleia kind of gave me permission to do that. And it made sense that I don't want my daughter to think okay, I'm moving on and you're out of my life completely and I'm writing you out of the will or whatever. I'm not doing that. That's just not who I am. So it was nice to hear Aleia say, don't give up. I think she said, don't give up. Well,
Mhm.
I think they both did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Jillian too. Yeah. So they've been so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think too, that's part of that consistency is, okay, we obviously weren't consistent in our timelines. Okay. We obviously made a lot of mistakes there and things that we coulda, shoulda, woulda, wish we would have done so differently. But from here on out, you know, we can say, okay, I'm doing this because this is who I am.
Mm-hmm. And you know when it feels right. We've talked about that too. And when Lisa and I, when we've worked on some things that we wanted to send before we sent them, and then we edited them, and then when it feels right to send, then it's from you and it's genuine. It's the right thing to send when it feels that way.
Yeah. When you're hesitant, there's still something there that needs worked on.
And you know that when you're reaching out to somebody that there's something not right in this.
And what do you think as far as, encouraging people to do their own timeline? I mean, was this beneficial when you did it?
Yes.
It was.
I thought so too.
It was.
Yeah. And I think I was able to see more of my daughter's side a little bit more and see a side of me too that, wasn't very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
That I didn't think I was that controlling, or I didn't think I was pushing or demanding, controlling. I mean, that's the right word. I didn't see it that way.
It is what it is. Things have been done. Can't undo them and change them. You can make different decisions from this point forward, though. But it's time to look out for yourself, because this is involving a disease process, not a personality. Hope that makes sense.
No matter what you say, wrapped in the most beautiful package with the best intentions, she hears it from her filter.
Yeah.
And it's going to sound like whatever story she's telling herself about what she believes about you. It doesn't even matter what you do. And that's why I always say it doesn't matter what you do. It's the level of consciousness you're in when you do it. And as moms, we always have to get to that place to where we're checking in with ourselves and saying, am I doing this, out of love, out of wanting the best thing for my child and for myself? I mean, I've never heard you say anything that you're doing anything out of getting even, being vindictive. I never get that from you. You're doing things that just need to be done.
I think you want to save her from death. honestly,
Yeah,
put it bluntly. Um,
100%. You're
Yeah.
100% right.
and you're trying in every way you could possibly try.
Yeah. Yep.
But she's in it. You can't save her from her own destiny. She
Yeah.
has to do that.
But you're a good mom. You're a good person.
Yes.
Yeah. And we understand why you want to do what you want to do. We get it.
Yeah.
You know, and you've done everything you can, and please don't beat yourself up. I mean, at some point it is her destiny. Absolutely. You know, and you've fulfilled yours. So just please don't carry it that there is something you could have done to make this turn out differently, because I
Yeah.
don't believe that.
No, there's nothing you can do. You have to take care of yourself, though.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
that intrinsically.
I know you do. We're
I do.
giving you permission that it's okay. And it's best for her, really, that you take care of yourself.
Yeah. And just let her do her thing. That is best for her.
Yeah. Don't slow down her process. Let her have it. And when you're strong and healthy and she chooses to come back, and you're in a better place.
And she probably does have to hit rock bottom. She probably does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She hasn't.
Well, she did once before, but I saved her. You know, I got her out of it.
Yeah, leave her in it.
Yeah.
Sounds mean. And for somebody like you who's a feeler, you're gonna feel horrible doing it. But you're not being mean, you know. She's got to go through what she's going to go through.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, it's Lisa's bedtime.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, ladies. Thank you for sharing. Y'all. All right.
Wonderful.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you both.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.